Hello, and welcome to another World of UX podcast. This is your host, Darren Hood. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to join us on today, and a special welcome to those of you who are tuning in for the first time. Welcome to the World of UX podcast. I'm going to do something. I don't know why I had a feeling this was coming, but I ping-ponged recently where I talked about the dysfunction, inequitability, and incivility of today's UX hiring landscape. And then there was a week where I talked about not drinking the UX Kool-Aid. And then I went back to, I did the Kool-Aid topic twice. And I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going back to the dysfunction, inequitability, and incivility of today's UX hiring landscape. So you can say I'm ping-ponging a little bit, but something really stirred this up. I actually got a job rejection notice that really stirred me up. And before I get into going step by step and addressing some of the things in this job rejection, I want to make sure that I address some people. I address this on social media because I'm outspoken. I'm shy, actually. I'm not looking to be seen, not looking to be heard, but I am caught up with the fact that I feel that I do have a sense of indebtedness to the discipline. So I put myself in a position, the discipline's been good to me. I put myself in a position to share. I put myself in a position to help people out. I put myself in a position to be someone that's pointing at the North Star, not pointing at myself, pointing at the North Star of where we need to be with regard to the discipline. And so for that reason, I speak out about different things. I make sure to let people know what I've experienced, what I've found out. I let people know what I've discovered in talking to people all over the world. I mentor people all over the world. I teach people from all over the world. I engage with people from all over the world. So I have a lot of perspectives to share with folks. And as I'm sharing these things, there are times where, and this just happened recently, and it comes to mind before I get into my take this week, where somebody was saying, I know you're angry. And I just sort of took it in and I said nothing. I didn't think anything of it. And then literally a few minutes later, someone else said almost the same exact thing. And they say, yeah, I know that makes you angry. And people will sometimes they'll say, I know this is really going to get under your skin, Darren. I want to right the ship on all of these things now. I am not angry at all. I'm not angry. If someone stomps on your foot, you're going to be upset and you're going to be angry. Nobody's stomping on my foot, figuratively or metaphorically, with these things. If you know something like the back of your hand, if there's something that you're well-versed in, and you see somebody or you see something happening that you know is diametrically opposed to that thing that you know like the back of your hand, that thing that you take great pride in, that thing that you have a great deal of respect for, pick the topic. It doesn't matter what the topic is, and it sure doesn't have to be UX. If you see somebody violating that, if you see somebody contradicting the ethics associated with that thing that you take very seriously, you're going to have a sense of passion about what it is that you see, and you speak out accordingly. When people take the things that I say and they take my passion and they decide to label it as being angry, there's a couple things that are happening. Most notably, in addition to the fact that they're not representing what it is that I'm doing or what my stance on the thing properly, they're also feeding into a racial stereotype. When people do that, they're actually feeding the narrative of the angry black man. And so this type of thing, folks, we can't have this. When people feed the narrative of the angry black man indirectly and passively, they are also steering people away from hearing what I'm saying. And so I'm coming out and calling those people out now. Stop calling me angry. I'm not angry. I take what you're saying. I take umbrage to what it is that's being said. I take umbrage to the stance. I take umbrage to somebody who tries to turn UX into UI. And if you don't, and you're a UX professional, you're at fault because this is not UI. So you shouldn't be seeing UX as UI. You should be offended. When I see people who have a platform in the world of UX giving and lending their platform to people who are bastardizing the discipline, I'm going to be upset about that from the perspective that it shouldn't be happening. It's not anger. It's angst. It's vexation. It is you are concerned, but please don't call it angry as if somebody's going to go and do something. Please don't call it angry as if there's something involved with this from a standpoint of temperament. It's passion, it's care, it's respect, and you see something handled the wrong way, you're going to say something about it. So please stop labeling me as angry, because all you're doing is feeding a narrative, and you're actually, it's interesting, they'll label me angry, but they'll see somebody else who is bastardizing the discipline and have nothing to say about that or call it something that it is not. So let's address things the right way. We're in a field that thrives on things being labeled properly, using the right nomenclature, using the right taxonomies, and then you see people in their engagement with other folks using the wrong taxonomies and using the wrong nomenclatures. So let's call it what it is. And so that's the end of what I have to say about that. But let's get into this today. This is part 2, if you will, of the dysfunction, inequitability, and incivility of today's UX hiring landscape. And to illustrate this, I want to take this notice. And any of you who applied for the same job and got the same rejection letter, email, you're going to know exactly what company I'm calling out here. This is really, really sad. And one company did this, but a lot of companies are guilty of this. So we're calling a lot of folks out. When we do this kind of stuff needs to stop. We're going to find out who got hired. It's going to be a bad hire. It's going to be a bad hire because of the way that people do things and the lack of expertise that is at work when people are getting hired. So at any rate, this notice that I get, it starts off in the beginning. You already know what's going to happen when you see the subject line. So you open it up and I just start laughing. And I got to also say this. I'm glad I didn't move forward in this process. I'm very happy I did not move forward in this process because there are several red flags in this email that tell me you do not want to work for this company. They are not going to respect. A lot of companies, they tell you in their rejection notices that if you really value UX, if you really know your stuff, if you're really qualified, and you go to work for a company like this, something is terribly, terribly wrong, and you are going to regret it. Oh, you're going to get paid. And I know a lot of people say, hey, I got to work somewhere. And you're absolutely right. And I feel you and I get it. That does not change the standards. It doesn't change the ethics of a thing. Go get paid. I'm not telling you to not get paid. What I am telling you, even when you work for a company like that and you're getting paid, you still have to face the fact that you work for a corrupt organization and you go into those companies trying to find somewhere else to go. And I don't take that back, and I'll never take that back. There are so many unethical companies out there when it comes to the way that they handle UX. And some people, it doesn't bother them because they've never suffered at the hands of these companies. I know several other people who have, and we're all sensitive to it. None of us are angry. We're all sensitive to the matter. Call us sensitive all day. But we're sensitive to what's at work in these situations and how it actually plays out. So, call it that, because that's what it is. But at any rate, this email starts out, we've had over 400 applications. Okay, number one, who cares? Who cares how many applications you've had? That's already the first red flag that lets you know something dysfunctional is about to happen here. Something from a standpoint of incivility. The fact that you had 400 applications means absolutely nothing. Don't even tell us how many applications you had. Boo-hoo, nobody feels sorry for you. You posted a job. You're going to get a lot of applications. Deal with it. Just make it a point to deal with it the right way. But stop crying about how many applications you had, because that's passive-aggressive crying is what that is. We don't want to hear it. Don't care. They go on to say, we've had over 400 applications. We're initially only inviting 10 people. Number one, which one is it? You're initially only inviting. Oh, are you saying that you're going to open the door up and invite more? If you're going to talk to 10, talk to 10. But again, you had 400 applications. Who cares? You're going to only invite 10 people to move forward. Who cares? Companies, stop. Stop with all of this bantering. Stop with all of this campaigning. Stop trying to make people not see you as a villain. You're a villain. You're a villainous entity because you're already campaigning for pity when it doesn't really matter. Do what you do. I love the companies that just say, hey, you're not moving forward in the process. Just wanted to let you know. We don't need the sordid details associated with how you're proceeding with this process. Just if you're going to send somebody something, just tell them you're moving forward or you're not moving forward, but don't give the details because nobody really cares. And all it does is say that you lack some type of ethics with regard to this thing. You lack some kind of scruples. That's really what's going on here. Let's leave it at that and just move on. 400, only 10. Boo-hoo, so what? That's the end of that. They go on after that. Of course, they're going to sing their praises because they're the best thing since sliced bread. So they're going to sing their praises after they've campaigned for your pity. We've looked through every single portfolio, and they put, yep, exclamation point, as if, wow, we're supposed to be floored by that. That only appeals to people just starting in the discipline. To people who have been around, we don't care. We don't care. You look through every single portfolio, I already know that the fact that you are putting all of this credibility into portfolios, of which that's already a misguided mindset. So the fact that you looked at every single portfolio means nothing. And especially it suggests that you know what you're doing when you're looking at the portfolio. So this is suggesting and showing that there's an air of arrogance and there's a strong air of Dunning-Kruger bias that's at work here. The fact that you are looking at every portfolio does not mean a single solitary thing, especially when you have no idea what you're looking at. And I don't care whether somebody's looking at 5 portfolios or 500 portfolios. If a person doesn't have the UX acumen to do it, it's already a losing proposition. And portfolios are not what people think that they are. It was funny. They said, the whole sentence says, we look through every single portfolio. Yay, you. And we're in general very impressed by the level of quality. Wait a minute. You looked at 400 applications. You looked through every single portfolio. We don't really have a count. Let's assume that there were 400 portfolios. So what? So what? We were impressed by the level of quality. The level of quality, how many of those were cookie cutters? A whole lot of them. How many were generated based on AI? Yes, people are using AI to generate portfolio content today. The things that are here, they're everywhere. So who cares? It's really, really, really sad. Portfolios are a false currency for candidate evaluation today. So we simply cannot put a lot of stock in that. The contents of a person's portfolio can easily be more of a reflection of who somebody has worked with. It's not a reflection of the individual that you're assessing. It's a reflection of the people, and in many cases, more of a reflection of the people they've worked for or with than the person that is actually applying for the job. So because of that, it doesn't give people a lot to go by. That's another reason. Why do people keep putting all this stock in portfolios? It's really, really silly. If the person or persons evaluating the portfolios, I already sort of said this, but if they don't have enough acumen to accurately evaluate the candidate, the fact that somebody looked through all the portfolios is 100% irrelevant. So stop talking about it and stop putting it on a pedestal as if it has weight. It does not. And this is the arrogance that is associated with portfolio reviewing today, because these people are ascribing too much value to their so-called skill. If you don't have the skill to review a portfolio, if you don't know how to read between the lines, if you don't realize that, hey, you know what? You looked at, they'll say, show us your best work. The only people that can show you their best work are the people that haven't done a lot of work. I talked recently about how my CV, not my resume, my CV has approximately 15 pages in it. Do you really think you're going to see my best work? Let's dumb it down a little bit. Let's say a person has 5 years of experience. That person who's been doing the work in 5 years, say they've worked at 3 different companies, very easy for that to happen over the course of 5 years. When that happens, do you really think you're seeing their best work? Do you realize that that person has likely been subjected to several NDAs, and because of that, they don't have their best work can't be shown? Do you realize of the projects that are in their portfolio that they can only include bits and pieces of the work that they've done? So it's not really a holistic reflection or representation of who they are. Stop putting so much stock in portfolios. When people do that, it lets you know they're dysfunctional. They're going to engage in some degree of inequitability. They're going to be unfair. They're going to engage in some level of incivility. It's impossible to do that when you're dealing with portfolios because of all of the variables, because of all the moving parts that people are not accounting for. That's just the raw truth about this thing. They go on to say, we sadly can't give individual feedback as if it matters, but we wanted to still share some of the things that we deselected based on. This might or might not apply to you. And it's funny, that line right there, that's a sign that lets you know that that hiring team has bought into the Kool-Aid associated with the cult of UX. This company has no idea what they're looking for. They have no idea what they want. We can't give individual feedback. You're assuming that your feedback has merit. You're assuming that you have something to say of value. But the mere fact they've already shown multiple signs that I see with my 28 plus years, I can see they don't bring anything to the table. I don't want to know. I've had people offer me feedback before, and I say, nah, I don't need it. Oh, you don't want feedback? No, I don't need it. Why? Because it's going to be destructive criticism. I'm only interested in constructive criticism. If you offer me feedback, but you have no idea what you're talking about, it is impossible for your feedback to be constructive. So therefore, we don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. Don't want to deal with that. Folks, when hiring managers suffer from Dunning-Kruger bias, not only is there no hope if you get hired there, there's no hope for that team until that team brings somebody on board that can help steer that ship. That's a boat on the water that's excited that they have a boat. But if you can't steer that boat, it's a matter of time before that boat makes shipwreck. And that's what people are dealing with. And now people are already upset. Why are you talking about all this stuff? Because this is stuff folks keep ignoring. This is real. Some of us are dealing with this today. I'm not angry. I'm sharing facts. This isn't personal. This is not being judgy, as some people like to throw out there. This is critical thinking on steroids. We need to understand this stuff to navigate this space because UX has been under siege since 2011, and it is under complete assault by people who do not have driver's licenses, but they're driving this thing. And we're being forced, many of us are being forced to navigate the waters of a discipline that is out of control. It is still salvageable. UX is still salvageable, but only if critical thinking reigns supreme. Only if critical thinking reigns supreme. Let's go on. They've got a few more notes here. We're going to get through all of these. They go on. They say, they're under the caption of I for design and detail. They say, we aim to create, and I bolded this, exceptional experiences. That is in the eye of the beholder. That is not something that is going to be defined by everyone the same way. when you're doing UX work, you're not trying to design exceptional experiences. You're trying to design optimal experiences. And those optimal experiences are not something left up to the beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. It's based on the data that we get out of the research that we do. So we're not exceptional experiences. That's usually a marketing thing. And they want to wow people. People are wowed because they can do what they set out to do. Wowing is very simple. Very, very, very simple. If you ever looked up the Kano method, look up the Kano method, Kano, and that will let you know that all people are looking for is trying to complete the tasks. They're trying to do things reflective of their mental models. They will eventually, the things that they experience today that might be something that was beyond their expectations, they expect that to become the norm tomorrow. That's about as wow as you're going to get. That's as exceptional as you're going to actually get with a user. And so that the mere fact that they use the phrase exceptional experiences is a huge red flag that something is wrong. It's going to be very subjective, and it's going to be based on, I mean, these people said they reviewed every portfolio. I guarantee you their attention span was longer earlier during the portfolio review process. And when they got worn out because they were reviewing too many, they did not treat portfolio number 99 the same way as they treated portfolio number 5. So that's where the inequitability and incivility is going to come into play. These are the types of things folks don't tell you. I'm going to tell you because I respect you. So I'm going to tell you these things because of that respect. We aim to create exceptional experiences and have been looking for candidates, oh, here we go, who stand out when it comes to visual understanding, craftsmanship, and attention to detail. No, you didn't. That's not what they're doing. There is no standing out. Either somebody is doing things that demonstrates, and it's not, by the way, visual understanding means they're looking for a UI person. They're not looking for a UX person. They're looking for a UI person. They're looking for a visual designer, and that's why they mention visual understanding. UX people thrive when it comes to interaction design principles, not visual understanding. So these people have code words in their rejection notice that lets you know they're not really UX people. That's not what they want. Oh, and note this. They said they want people who stand out when it comes to visual understanding, craftsmanship, and attention to detail. Note they mention attention to detail last. And the visual, the way this is written, they want visual understanding, so they call it. Nobody uses that terminology. They want a good visual designer. And visual craftsmanship, see, because that's where they really told you what's really going on. They want a UI person. They said visual understanding. They didn't put the word visual in front of craftsmanship, but the way it's written, that's really what they want. They want somebody who's a good visual designer. They threw the attention to detail in there because they don't want to show their hand too much. But visual designers are not going to give you attention to detail that's reflective of UX principles and high UX acumen. But they don't want a UX person. That's why people like me I'm not the only one who got a rejection notice here. They said that they disqualified some people because of lack of experience. No, they didn't. The person who gets the job is going to have very little experience. We already know that because we've seen it 1,000 times. They say, the explanation here, given the role's demands, we have chosen candidates, the aforementioned 10, we have chosen candidates with substantial, relevant experience. Watch and see who post to LinkedIn that they got the job and they want congratulations because they're celebrating because they started as the new person at this particular company. I already know what we're going to see. And that's why I laughed when I saw all of this, because it's funny to me because I haven't lost anything. But they don't want people with substantial relevant experience. That is also subjective because they said it, but they'll hire somebody with between 1 to 3 years. They're not going to hire anybody with substantial relevant experience in complex product or interaction design. What? That contradicts what you said in the last bullet point. So we're not even going to deal with that one much longer. The next one comes under the heading clear communication. They say effective communication is crucial in a remote setting. Okay, yeah. And I'm not getting on them about that, but you don't even need to say that. Just say what's needed. And that's they're blowing smoke. But when people make obvious statements, it's because they're blowing smoke and they're trying to cover up something else that's here, just to let you know. They said, we've assessed candidates based on their ability to present and articulate their work, both in writing and visually. So you also reviewed, and we talked about this recently, you reviewed approximately 400 portfolios asynchronously. So you wanted somebody that was going to be able to communicate writing, in written communication, and you wanted somebody to excel at visual communication, letting you know they wanted a visual designer. They wanted a visual design person, not a UX person. But because you did these things asynchronously, so people didn't get a chance to communicate the same way they would communicate with a client, face to face. So just letting you know. And people who lack skill cannot communicate. They cannot excel in communication when it comes to written communication and visual communication. Only people who have degrees in those things, visual designers, can do that. So these people, that's the incivility. That's it. They're lying. I'm telling you now, these folks are liars. If they lie to you during this part of the process, they're going to lie to you when you get hired. I feel for the person who gets hired because this is a very disingenuous company that I see here. And I know who they are. I won't be using their product anymore. Yes, I do detach from companies when they demonstrate poor CX principles. I do, because I don't want to use your product because it's going to show up somewhere in your product. So I don't want to deal with companies who are willing to lie to their potential employees like this. So the next category is insufficient portfolios. They say we've seen several portfolios lacking details such as project dates. Portfolios don't include dates. Who told them this? Links? Links to what? Links to what? What are they talking about here? You don't need a link to anything if you got a portfolio. It's all within that. So that's misdirection. That's gaslighting. And that's the incivility that's coming out there because of the gaslighting that they're willing to do. Outlines of responsibilities. Yeah, that's supposed to be there. So I give them that one. Roles and outlines of responsibilities. But then again, when I think about it, you know what? I take that back. They said roles and outlines of responsibilities. So let me think through this one. What roles did a person have on the job? Yes, people should have that. I give them that one. Okay, that one I give them. But outlines of responsibilities, what were you responsible for? If that's what they mean, yes. So if somebody didn't include that, that's a word of a notification to those who are working on your portfolios, trying to update your portfolios. Your portfolio should include the roles you had in a given project, and it should describe, not too much, succinctly, it should describe what your responsibilities were. So roles and responsibilities, that's all they had to say. Outlines of responsibilities is what really stood out to me as being, why'd they say it that way? So your roles and responsibilities should not only be there, but they should also be reflected in your resume. Remember, resumes are actually more important. Some people don't like the fact that I say this. This is a former HR person and a hiring manager saying this. If your resume doesn't say anything, I don't want to see your portfolio. That's the other thing, too. Why would you look at 400 portfolios when you should have been looking at the applications to begin with? So that lets you know that there's something else that's wrong anyway. So roles and responsibilities, yes. Outlines of responsibilities. I'll put I'll put a yellow flag on that, not a red one, but I'll put a yellow flag on that. And here's one that means nothing. Updated cases. What in the world is that? What in the world is an updated case? And this somebody, they just said they want you to be able to communicate properly from a written perspective, but they're not even doing it. That, I'd say, is a problem. Now we're back to red flags. When you see enough red flags, hey, I know it. I get it. Some people will apply for the job because they're looking for a job. They need a job. I get it. But do not ignore the red flags. It will help you to, even if you go into an environment like this one. And for the person who gets the job, I'm happy if you get a job of any kind these days in UX because we're totally under siege. and unqualified people are getting jobs faster than qualified people are these days. But please don't ignore the red flags. Don't put on the rose-colored glasses and pretend that these things don't exist. They are here. They're going to show up again. They're going to be no holds barred when they show up after the fact. So please be aware of that. So they end that statement by saying, portfolios missing several of these elements have been rejected. Okay, you don't need to say that. There's a lot of fluff here. There's a whole lot of fluff here, a whole lot of talk, a whole lot of there's different words that we use to refer to this. I'm just going to say bantering, and we'll leave it like that. We're just going on and on and on as if they're trying to win people over in the process, when the bottom line is this type of an address, as we begin to wrap up here, this type of an address comes out of a situation, a core full of dysfunction, full of inequitability, and full of incivility. And it is a snapshot of what's wrong with hiring in today's UX circles. Again, this came from one company, but a lot of companies are guilty of these same things. There is one more note. I'll go ahead and share this. And they mentioned ChatGPT. They said, while AI support is acceptable, we want to understand the person behind the application. Okay, no, you don't, because I know people that you rejected. So that's a lie. Portfolios that rely heavily on ChatGPT outputs without personal input were not considered. Okay, well, that goes without saying. So again, don't even need to say that. So it's just yeah, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of blah, blah, blah here. And because there's all the blah, 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 I can't respect this source. So again, and as I mentioned earlier, now I no longer have any respect for this particular company for that reason. It won't seem like the response in this email is that long. It won't seem like that if you see it, because a lot of these statements are one line. They just, when you read it, it comes out that way. But this is what's wrong in UX today. This came from the actual CEO of the company. This is not the only terrible CEO rejection notice I've ever received. And a lot of CEOs, they're out of control, such as with Twitter. A lot of CEOs are out of control. They are egotistical maniacs. A lot of them, I'm not saying this person is, I'm saying a lot of them are. I think people already know that. And so blathering is the term I was trying to think of earlier. When people blather, there's not a lot of good that's going to come out of such things. And a blathering is an act of dysfunction, and people are going to get caught up in the blathering. They're going to see the blathering. The blathering is reflective of Kool-Aid. And for those of you who don't know what blathering is, I'll save you looking it up. It means, by definition, it means to talk on and on foolishly. There's a lot of definitions about this here. It means to talk nonsensically. It means to talk in a way that is inconsequential. I mean, you really can't do anything with it. It's one, Merriam-Webster talked about it being a state of noisy, confused activity and sharing language, behavior, ideas. I'm reading straight out of Merriam-Webster here from a synonym perspective that are absurd and contrary to good sense. There is nothing in that email that's reflective of good sense. It is blathering. And so it is very disrespectful. It's very insulting. And so I actually have, I think I mentioned this before, I actually have a folder in my email account called Dumb Rejections. And I actually store these. I'm going to keep them. And I'm probably going to elaborate on these at length sometime in the future. But folks, when you get these rejection notices, you are not who these companies say you are. Don't let them gaslight you and reduce you into thinking that you're less of what you really are. A whole lot of rejections means nothing. And I say this all the time, and I say it again. It's not about the 50, the 100, the 200, the 300, the 400, the 1,000 job rejections you get. It's about the one job that you do get. So because of that, keep focusing and keep fighting the good faith and going after that job. And every time you get a rejection notice, you're one step closer to that one that you were looking for. But when you get these kind of rejection notices full of insulting rhetoric, just learn to laugh. Learn to laugh at this stuff. I know it hurts. I know it's terrible. I know the plights. I've been in your shoes. I know what it's like when you're looking for something. I mean, think about it. In my shoes, you're fully qualified. You know this stuff like the back of your hand. I mean, I'm a person that you get in trouble for doing real UX work these days because there's so many of these people out there calling shots. So don't let these people get you down. Keep fighting, keep going forward. And the goal is to eventually land something that you can be proud of being a part of that organization, proud of that team, and laboring to bring forth value and vaulting the team forward. So that is all the time we have for today. Before we end today, though, please remember the UX Chit Chat Hour is back. It's like, think of it as a support group. Some people say that it's therapeutic to get together and talk to other UX professionals, and it is. And the UX Chit Chat Hour will be back this Friday. It's now called the Kaizen UX Rendezvous. We meet at 12:15 p.m. on the last Friday of each month for roughly 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. And so feel free, come on out and join us. We're having conversations with UXers from all over the globe, talking about any and everything, just supporting people and helping people to be their absolute best, supporting people, helping people to get jobs. Yes, we have helped people get jobs through this resource. So come on out, join us at the Kaizen UX Rendezvous. Hope to see you there. But until next week, this is Darren Hood, the host of The World of UX, signing off. And until then, happy UXing, everybody.